right, I'm going to explain the story about Jacob and Laban. A lot of people think that Jacob deceived Laban, because a lot of people, when you mention the name Jacob, it's like, oh, he's a deceiver and all this kind of stuff. But I'm going to explain what this story means, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what was going on here. Don't forget that Jacob was an expert at taking care of the sheep. He'd been doing it already for at least 6 years. With Laban, never, if there was any blemish on any of the sheep, Jacob would take a loss, even if it was Laban's flock or sheep or whatever. If it was maimed, lame, whatever, Jacob would just take a loss for it, because he was learning how to breed sheep. So I'm going to explain how this works here. Genesis 30, 32, and 33. So I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire, so shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. All right, so let's break this down. Okay, what we're talking about here is sheep and goats. The word cattle, don't let the word cattle throw you off here. We're not talking about cows. Cattle is a cloven hoof type of beast. All right? So whenever I put a square, these are Jacobs. These are going to be Jacobs. So speckled and spotted are going to be Jacobs. The brown sheep and goats are going to be Laban's. So in the spotted and speckled among the goats. So we're talking about sheep and goats. Brown are Laban's, speckled and spotted are Jacob's. What else do we have to talk about here? So that is what is happening right now, is Jacob is actually separating the speckled and spotted from the brown sheep, and the speckled and spotted among the goats. And then he's given whatever is left over, brown most likely, to Laban. So that's going to be his wages. So then when we get into the scripture and we read verse, where are we here? And he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-streaked and spotted, and all the she-goats were speckled and spotted. So those are his. And everyone that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, he gave them into the hand of Laban's sons, not Jacob's sons, Laban's sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. All right, so, and Jacob took him rods of green poplar, the hazel, chestnut, built white stakes in them, white strakes in them, and he made white appear which was in the rods, and he set the rods in which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters and the water troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth the cattle ring streaked, speckled, and spotted. There's no mystery here. There's nothing going on here that's crazy. He made some rods, he piled them up before the flocks in the gutters, the water and troughs. So when they came to drink, and they would conceive, because they would do that when they're coming to drink, because they need to survive, so they always have to hang around the water hole. And when the flocks conceived and brought forth ring-streaked and speckled and spotted, Jacob would separate them for himself. So Jacob did separate the lambs, so the babies, and set the faces of flocks towards the ring-streaked. So don't let this throw you off here. When he's just saying the faces, he's basically saying he put all the ring-streaked in his flock and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And you can see that there. The faces of the flocks. Talking about two flocks here. one for the ring straked and all the brown, because those are going to be Laban's. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and he put them not into Laban's cattle. He didn't want to mix them. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, so the stronger ones are conceiving, so he takes those ones, and it says here that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, and they might conceive among the rods. So I think what's happening here is he's putting these rods and stuff for the ones that actually make it over to mate. These are a little bit of the stronger ones. So they're mating amongst the rods. And then once they conceive later, once he sees them streaked and speckled, he separates them. Nothing going on here yet. Nothing too crazy. But here's the difference. When the cattle were feeble, because they couldn't go onto the rods, because they were too either timid or scared of the rods or whatever it is, so they would not go there, and he wouldn't let them in because he saw that they're maybe struggling, whatever. Instead, the stronger ones were able to breed in that type of environment. So once he saw the ones that were a little bit stronger amongst the rods, then they could breed there. Because it's almost like survival of the fittest. The weak ones wouldn't make it, so he wouldn't let them in. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses. So again, he created these rods so that they would have to struggle. The ones that struggled onto the rods and mated, they were the ones that were stronger. The ones that were feeble would not. They would just be either too timid, and he could tell. Jacob could just tell which ones were the weak ones. Because when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So it's like they're not able to breed in that environment. So that was very easy for Jacob to do. So basically, he created a contraption to make the ones that were a bit stronger work for it a little bit. Now, some people say that the rods were used for leeching and all this kind of stuff. It could be maybe to draw them in and stuff, but they were definitely mating amongst the rods. And only the strongest ones were able to do that. The feeble ones weren't able to go in. So that is how he was able to increase his flock legitimately, genetically. This guy was an engineer, a genetic engineer when it came to raising sheep. Hopefully that helps out, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.